Well, Your Technology Tutor Program, Episode 7. Today's topic, sharing your photos via email and internet.
Welcome to the Your Technology Tutor Program, where you'll learn how to be more successful using personal technologies like Mac computers, iPhones and iPads, useful software, cool web tools, videotaping and editing, digital photography, and more. And now, here's the host of our program, Your Technology Tutor, Chet Davis.
Welcome to today's program. Great to have you along today as together we learn to be more successful using our personal technology tools. Today's topic is more and more pertinent to folks today more than ever. You know, it used to be that we would take photographs and put them into albums or frame them and share them with family and friends when they visited or when we visited them. Remember taking over photos and remember the ubiquitous slide presentations. Oh, we're going over to our friend's house to see their slides of the family vacation for hours and hours, the dreaded slideshow. Well, you know, if the folks were really special and the photos were really special, we'd make a copy of them. And if you were older like me, from something called a negative. Who can remember negatives? Remember the shoebox full of negatives? Wow, that's dating myself here. And then we would either mail or hand the reprint over to a friend or loved one. Well, with the greater speed of internet use, coupled with the proliferation of digital photography, whether we're talking about, high quality digital single lens reflex cameras, DSLR cameras, point and shoot cameras, compact cameras, even down to our smartphone cameras, the opportunities to capture and share photos has become increasingly easy and increasingly more and more widespread. Today I seek to provide you with an overview of the best methods for sharing your photos using email and internet tools. Here's kind of the 4 subcategories I'm going to touch on today. First, sharing via email, some ideas there. Then sharing via social media websites or networks. Then I want to talk about cloud-based services, cloud computing services, explain that a little bit to you if you're less familiar with that. And lastly, online photo websites, both free and paid, and talk about the distinction between the two and why I recommend a particular type of service there. First, let's acknowledge that today's cameras are capable of producing images with very high resolution. The results in a single photo, in what we call a file, can be very large, filled with great detail, great information, a great deal of information to transfer over the internet. Now, when you have more information in a file, and again, we're focused today on photographs rather than video or documents, but a photo can have a bunch of, the more detail, the greater the resolution, the higher the quality, the more information there is to transfer from your computer over to somebody else's. For example, even on an iPhone 4S or an iPhone 5, which has an 8 megapixel sensor, this will result in an image that can be 3264 by 2448. Now what that means is 3,264 pixels wide by 2,448 pixels tall, depending on the orientation. But I mean, that's a good deal of information. Now that yields a file that can be between 2.5 megabytes, and a little bit more than 3 megabytes in size, which is a fairly large file size. To put that into perspective, now that's a bunch of gobbledygook and numbers that you don't necessarily have to remember. But here's where the rubber meets the road. Now, most all of the free email programs that people use, like Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo, etc., have a limitation on attachments, which means that when you're sending an email, there's only so much you can put through the pipeline, through the hose, through the email. Okay, and once it hits that size, that restriction, it says, your file's too large, your email's too large, the attachment's too large. So when you attach photos to send to an email, it's possible that A, it's going to block you from sending it, and B, on the other side, even if maybe you say, well, I've got an email program that lets me send big files, Yeah, well, the folks who are receiving your message, they may be on a restriction as well. Now, that restriction can be their internet service provider. It can be the email provider. If they're at work, it can be the network. So a lot of those things to deal with. Now, again, most folks have an email program with a size limit and also a capacity that your inbox reaches. Once that inbox is full, it's going to stop allowing messages in. You probably sent an email to somebody, got kicked back saying message is full, kind of like a voicemail box, you know. Now, this is the thing to be aware of. Before we talk about sharing that photo, you need to know in your mind, to decide in your mind, is this a photo you're sharing just so that your friend or family member can see it and go, oh, that's cute. Oh, that was a fun time. We had a great time at the reunion. Or, wow, you scanned that photo of us way back in high school. You know, that kind of stuff. Is it just for them to see on their computer? Or are you sending it to someone so that they can take it to their local photo store to reprint it, to have it printed as an actual, you know, hard copy photo that they're going to put in an album or put on the fridge or frame on the wall? Those are two different distinctions. The reason why is if they're just viewing it on the computer, we can go to a lower quality size photo, which I'm going to talk about in just a moment how you can do that. But if it's going to be printed, you want to send it to them. You want to get it to them in one of the higher resolutions, in one of the higher qualities. And I'm going to talk about how to do that later in the program. All right, first of all, let's jump in here and talk about how you can email a program. Now, most every email application, again, allows you to attach photos. Now, these attachments can be a document like a PDF document or a Word document. You can even attach videos, but that's a topic for another podcast. But if we're attaching photos, you simply click on the Add Attachment button or Attach button. Depends on the email client, the application, the program you're using, the language, and where that button is located. But you simply click on that and choose the photo or photos which are added to the message before sending. Now, the trick here is not to attempt, again, to send too large of an image through email. If you only have one image to share, you can probably use email to share it. Okay, like on an iPhone 4S or iPhone 5, like I said, you're around 3.1 megabytes of size. Most email applications will let through up to about 10 megabytes. That's the kind of the ceiling for most applications. Not all, but for most of them. So you're pretty safe with one image. Okay, but be aware that image size, as I said, the iPhone 4S or iPhone 5 will give you right around 3 megabytes of size. But if you're attempting to transmit an image from a higher resolution digital camera, like the Canon 5D Mark II, for example, if you're shooting in the highest mode, the highest quality setting, the highest resolution, you may end up with a photo that's 21 megapixels in size. That's not going to go through most people's emails. Both sending and receiving, it will likely be blocked. So if you're dealing with that high of a file size, you need to lower the image size before sending. There's a couple different ways for doing that. If you're using a photo application on your computer, like for example, if you're on a Mac and you're using iPhoto or you're using Aperture, it is possible to lower the file size when you export that image. Okay? Now, iPhoto does have an email share function, as does Aperture, so you can navigate that through there. But you can also use an application. If you're on the Mac, you can use the free Preview utility software, the freeware that you'll find. Just click on the Finder and look for Preview, and it'll show you how you can do that. If you're on a Windows computer, you can use a freeware program like IrfanView, IrfanView, IrfanView. Now, any of the links I talk about today, by the way, will be posted in the show notes, and I'll tell you how you can find those on my website. But I'm going to show you, walk through this here, and I do have a short video on my website. If you're using an Apple computer, a Mac laptop or desktop computer, how you can do this. First of all, you want to find out the image size and see how big it is, right? Well, if you're looking at the image in the Finder, depending on the view setting in the Finder, it'll show you the size of that file, the size of that photo. If not, select that photo on your computer in your folder, and click on the Command key on your keyboard, Command and the letter I for info. Command and the letter I together will show you the file size and a whole bunch of other information. It opens up what they call the Info tab. Now, if it's larger than you think you should be sending, you can lower the quality pretty easily in most email programs before you send it. Okay. Now, I'm going to talk specifically about a Mac today and using the Mac Mail, which is the built-in email application. Go ahead and attach that photo, and in the bottom right corner of the email message in Mac Mail, you can choose the file's original size, or you can change it to one of 3 lower resolutions. Okay, so they have actual size, and if you select actual size, that's the original size of the photo. You're not compressing it, you're not modifying at all. You have small, medium, and large. Now, let me take for example, again, that 3.1 megabyte photo that I captured that I'm talking about, that is a real photo. Okay. If you choose the large setting, it takes it down to 452 kilobytes. Okay. So that's about 1/6 the size of the actual original at large. If you go to medium, it's 153 kilobytes, and if you go all the way down to small, it's a 55 kilobytes. So it's a much smaller image, but again, it depends on what you want to do with the photo. This is being thoughtful for you and for your recipients. Now, especially if they're on a slower internet connection, maybe in the middle of the country, they don't have high-speed internet. Maybe they're out, in a rural application, they don't have high-speed internet. You want to be thoughtful that if they're on a dial-up mode or a much slower connection, it's going to take a long time for a higher quality image to make it through their pipeline. And they're not going to get any other email messages till that one finishes loading. Now, there is a way on your email application to say, don't load in attachments larger than X, size X, and we'll show that in a future tutorial. That's a good idea, Chet. All right. So again, if you're capturing photos in your iPhone or your iPad, you can send via the iOS Mail app. It's quite easy. You can just click on the share button in the camera roll and then click Mail. It'll attach your photo and let you pick size there. But I'm focused primarily on a desktop or laptop computer today. And again, if you're in iPhoto or Aperture, one of the photo applications, there is via the share function an email option that lets you navigate through some of this as well. So the first takeaway from our first topic is, be thoughtful, know the file size of the photo or photos you're attempting to send, and adjust the file size if it's too large. Okay, second topic here is how we can use cloud-based services, cloud computing services, to share a photo. If you're using latter versions of the Apple operating system, specifically OS X on your laptop or desktop computer, and if you have iOS 6 on your mobile devices like your iPhone or iPad, you can use the newer photo stream function. This is pretty cool. You can share wirelessly between your devices as you assign or capture additional photos. They're automatically synchronized and loaded to your other devices, even to your laptop or desktop computers. It's pretty darn cool. You can even invite friends and family into what we call a shared photo stream, and they'll automatically receive photos on their computer or their Apple device. I will also post a link to a video where I teach you how to do this function in the show notes for today's program. And if you're chomping at the bit, you can get to the show notes at yourtechnologytutor.com, yourtechnologytutor.com/7. Just the numeral 7, not spelled out, numeral 7. Okay, this is episode number 7. Now, apart from the iCloud ability to stream photos between devices, again, that's called the photo stream, and it's only available if you're talking about mobile devices. You have to be using iOS 6. If you're on a Mac computer, you can go right in the OS, and it'll actually even share into iPhoto if you have that synced up. If you're on a Windows computer, or if you want to share to a family member or friend who's on a Windows computer, you can actually do that too. It gives you a link for them to open up the album in their browser. It's pretty cool. Now, there are a number of other document and file sharing options that you can upload your photos to and share them that way. Many, many choices here. Among them, some of the names you've probably heard before: Dropbox, Google Drive, and Microsoft SkyDrive. Now, there are dozens of other choices. Some are free, Some are paid apps that offer this service. Here's basically what happens. After you register for an account, open an account at one of these cloud storage services, you'll either have access to a control panel that will be an application or software that you download onto your computer, and then you use that to upload and download files, or in the web browser, for example, like on Microsoft SkyDrive and Google Drive, which, by the way, used to be called Google Docs. It's now Google Drive. You sign in, and then you click Upload File, and then you browse and find that file, in this case, a photo or photos on your computer in some file, and you upload them, and then they're loaded to that service's file server. In other words, they have a bunch of computers somewhere remotely connected to the internet, and your stuff, your photos, your files get loaded into their computers, their file servers, and then you can access that. When you log in, it's like you're opening a tunnel, you're opening a gateway, a bridge to that computer, to that area on the computer where your stuff is stored, so you can download it, and that's how we share it as well. Okay, so that computer holds your data in the cloud. It's not on your hard drive, but in the cloud, accessible via internet. Now, between these three, and again, there's a whole bunch more, but I've used these the most and find them very practical, very usable. Dropbox, which I like a great deal, starts you out with 2 gigabytes of space for your files, free. Okay? As you share your files with others, you can complete other activities like link your account up with Facebook, link it up with Twitter, etc. You earn more free space. Now, I presently have 4.5 gigabytes of space for free that I don't pay for. Okay? By referring more friends to the service, I could max out at 18 gigabytes of space for free, of storage space. That's pretty cool. Now, you can also become a paid member to each of these services and get up between 10 and 100 gigabytes if you need it. Now, Google Drive, another service by the folks at Google, of course, provides 5 gigabytes of space for free to store and share your data on. And Microsoft's SkyDrive has the highest capacity of these 3 free services. They provide you right out the gate as soon as you sign up with 7 gigabytes of space. Now, I use Google Drive a lot for work and for community sharing, youth sports and that kind of stuff, my son's schools, mostly documents, but I've also shared videos and photos that way. I also do have accounts, as I've mentioned, with Dropbox and SkyDrive. Now, in reviewing, in researching, and preparing for this program, I would say that I found SkyDrive to be the most friendly for sharing photos. It was very easy to upload my pics, and the thing I liked about SkyDrive in contrast with Dropbox and Google Drive is that when it's a photo, it shows up as a photo, like a little album online. I thought that was very cool because it's very easy, especially if you're sharing with somebody who's a little less techno-comfortable, okay? Is maybe, like a grandparent or something, it's easy to click on there and you can see the photo instead of this file name on there, okay? The recipient can see the photo in a gallery. It's nice. The links for each of these free services can be found again in the show notes for today's program, yourtechnologytutor.com/7. It's that time. It's the time for our cool find. Now, every one of these podcasts, I'm going to take this segment to share a cool gadget, an application, or web tool that I think is particularly worthy. This week, it's a website and also an app. It's called IMDb. IMDb, which is an acronym for Internet Movie Database. Now, IMDb is regarded as the #1 movie website in the world, with a combined web and mobile audience of more than 160 million unique monthly visitors. 160 million every month. Wow. It's a website with a good search tool, and it has more than 2 million movies listed. It also includes TV programs and more than 4 million cast and crew members. So, the actors, the directors, the camera people, everybody that's involved kind of in the entertainment world, but particularly focused on movies and TV programs. Now, what the heck is IMDb and why would you use it, Chet? All right. If you like going to the movies, if you consume television at home, Here's what I like about it. When I want to find out about a new movie that's on, maybe it's an old movie on DVD or a movie that's streaming on Netflix or Amazon Instant, I go to IMDb. I can enter in the movie's name and, learn all kinds of things like when it was produced, who was the director, who were the main stars. Okay. If I want to find out who played a particular character in a movie, I go to IMDb. If I want to find out what that early movie was that actor so-and-so starred in. For example, I can go ahead and type in Harrison Ford and find out what was his first film. Okay. Now, there's another reason I like IMDb as well, which I find particularly useful if you're a parent, maybe a grandparent, an uncle, an aunt, something. Once you're on the service and you type in a new movie, maybe it's a movie that just came out, and you're considering taking a younger family member to see the movie, but you're not sure, is it going to be appropriate? Is it inappropriate material? Well, if you scroll down, for any recent or current movie, you'll find what they call the Parent's Guide, and then you click to view content advisories. It provides clear details on any potentially offensive or inappropriate content in the movie. What I appreciate about this, it's clearly factual information. It's not saying this is why we don't like this movie or we think it's a letter C or gets a grade of D for violence, whatever. It just states the information and lets me make up my mind. Clearly laid out for me to decide what I think of the movie and whether it's too much for my kids. 5 different areas: sex and nudity, violence and gore, profanity, alcohol, drug smoking, and frightening and intense scene. Now, also on IMDb, if you care about it, you can keep track of box office results, how much it made last weekend, how much it's made altogether, read film critic reviews, etc. And while planning this program, I was surprised to learn that IMDb is actually an Amazon.com company. Now, you'll find IMDb in your web browser on your desktop, laptop, computer just by going to imdb.com. There's also an IMDb app. I've got it on my iPhone. You'll find the app for iPhone and iPod Touch and the iPad in the App Store. There's also an app for Android devices and the Kindle Fire. Again, that's IMDb, this week's cool find. All right, back to our program. We continue on, ways to share photos with email and internet tools. Next, we're going to jump to social media. Let's discuss for a moment the use of social media services or sites to share your photos. But before we do that, let's define a difference between broadcasting and targeted sharing. If you want the world, or a potential portion of the world, to see your photo, then you may choose to use a service like Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook, or one of the photo-specific networks like Photolog, F-O-T-O-L-O-G, which I just found this week. Pretty cool. Now, the trick is, if it's a private photo, you probably don't want to use any of these services. Now, you're likely sharing with every potential person who has an account with that service. And you might say, well, I'm only sharing with my friends. But remember that depending on how your friends tag you, or if your friends retweet it or share that, they're potentially sharing it with their group of friends, which can very quickly step up into the thousands or tens of thousands of potential eyes. So really the long and short of it is, if it's a photo you want to keep private, don't go to a social media network. Just don't, okay? Share it via either email, via the cloud media, or I'm going to share with you the next topic here. The next segment is online photo websites. But if it's something, a landscape shot, a shot of the environment on your vacation, share away. That, unless it's your boss who thinks you're supposed to be at work today and you called in sick, be careful there. There are ways to send private messages or direct messages within these services, but you really need to be comfortable. It's something anybody can learn to do, but if you feel a little shy about it or insecure, less confident about that, I would avoid putting anything that's even remotely private, photograph-wise or even text-wise, on any of the social media sharing sites. So just be cautious of that. Now, I do use all of those social media services, and I'm comfortable doing it, but I choose what to put there and what to leave out. Next, on to online photo websites. Now, this is the last category of internet photo sharing options. The nice thing about these, they not only provide the opportunity to share your photos, but the great thing is they also provide online storage or archiving of our most precious photographs. And this is, to me, a growing and important need, and I'm afraid a lot of folks don't have these bases covered. Most people who suffer from some natural disaster, whether it's a flood or a fire, an earthquake, that kind of thing, the thing that they say, you can rebuild your home, even if it costs more money maybe than you have. But the thing that you can't replace, apart from, human life, is the memories, the precious memories, whether there's, photos, videos, slides, DVDs, that kind of thing. Your family memories of people growing up and grandparents and family reunions and good times. So, and so many of us have that digital content, the digital memories, maybe only on our computer hard drive. And if that hard drive crashes or is compromised, is hacked, that's gone. And if you don't have it backed up, like I started off today's program, like my mom had this, shoebox or shoe boxes full of photographic negatives, you could go back and reprint that. But if you're dealing with digital photos and you only have them on one computer hard drive, that hard drive goes south without you, you're not getting it back. Okay? So it's so important to think about protecting, about archiving our digital memories. And I've got another program on that I'll point to in the show notes. But long and short of it is, the benefit of these online photo sharing websites, you can upload it to these sharing websites, kind of like the cloud services. Nice thing is you can share with that, and it's also saved there. So if something happens to my computer tomorrow, they're saved in the cloud on that website that I can go back and retrieve, view, and even download. So great beneficial. Now, if you're a digital photographer who's serious about not only sharing your favorite photos, but also in preserving these memories for years to come, to have an archival plan, I recommend you should consider using a paid photo sharing archival service rather than one of the many free versions out there. The reason here is this. A free service might change their business model next week. They could be acquired. They could sell off that part of their business. They could shut down that part of the business. You may lose access to your photos. I'm aware of a couple of services, because I do a lot of stuff with video as well. One service actually closed down without any announcement at all, a free service, a couple years ago, and there were some folks who had their videos there and only there. They lost access to those videos. Frightening. So with a paid provider, you have more security, because it's a business agreement. Even if they go bankrupt or someone purchases them out, I was part of a service and that was the case, they gave you more than a month's warning and provided alternatives for you to get your stuff off or start using a new service. So again, if it's a paid service, you have a lot more opportunity, an arrangement to be able to deal with that, to handle that unfortunate situation should it arise. Where a free service, it's, sorry, we're closing. And there's really not much of an agreement between you and them. Also, with a paid service, you have access to greater levels of technical support, additional increased premium services, etc. Now, there's more than a dozen pay-to-play photo hosting websites and at least that many photo sharing websites that are free. I'm going to focus today on one paid site and two free sites. The paid site is called SmugMug, and the free sites are called Flickr and Picasa. After a good deal of research, a couple years ago, I decided to do my photo hosting with SmugMug. They have several plans to choose from, beginning with the basic level. Now, the basic level, the fee is $5 a month or $40 annually, $40 for 12 months. This provides you with unlimited photo uploads. In other words, an unlimited amount of storage space, but a maximum of 50 megabytes per image. So, and again, that's going to handle most everybody who's listening to this podcast. They also have 3 higher levels. If you're a professional photographer, there's additional services. You can put in video and high-definition video up to a certain amount of size. The professional accounts, the other thing, they let you create websites where people can actually purchase your photos. There's like a built-in store setting, and there's some other options to showcase photos. If you're not shooting photos for a living, then probably the basic level is more than fine for your needs. Nice thing about SmugMug, their protection levels, in their words, and I've found it to be true in the research I've done, they provide the greatest level of security and privacy for your photos compared with anybody else out there. Okay, very robust, as are the sharing options. They have file servers that duplicate your photos on the west coast of the U.S. and the east coast of the U.S. So if there was a natural disaster to even occur in their building, all the photos are mirrored. They're backed up in a duplicate file server on another coast. So it's redundancy, it's protection. Now, I load my photos into separate galleries and then can send someone a link to that gallery so they can view the gallery or even to a specific photo. You can upload to your SmugMug gallery from any computer with an internet connection through a web browser. You can even do so while on vacation. Either if you have an iFi wireless SD card in your camera, or if you're using the SmugMug app on your iPhone or iPad. And I've used that on vacation in Europe last year, and it works great. So I was able to set up a private gallery so my closest friends and family members could kind of see what we're doing on vacation even before I got home. Very cool. Now, the two notable free options I'm going to mention, Google's Picasa. Okay? Now, that service allows you to create online albums, restrict visibility and access to those photo galleries. One reason to consider Picasa over another free service is if you do a lot with Google already, you can share photos from Picasa with your connections in Google Plus if you're using that social media network. Plus, you're already logged in using your universal Google ID, so it might be very friendly for a lot of folks. Okay. The other is Flickr. And I have a gallery. I have a number of photos saved on Flickr as well. Flickr is great for sharing. It's one of the more universal sites for both professional and amateur photographers who wish to share. And the nice thing is there's kind of groups or galleries. So when I shoot photos of landscape, there's a couple groups dealing with landscape photography. I do a lot of photography with my iPhone. And there are galleries set up for, quality iPhone photography. So it's nice, and you can be inspired by others' photos too. So, and there's a dialoguing. So there's a little bit of social media connection, like, hey, I like your photo, tell me which camera you used, etc. So there's learning as well as sharing that goes on there too. Okay. Now you'll find growing episodes of this program, Your Technology Tutor, along with regular posts, short video lessons, practical technology news, tips, and more on my website, yourtechnologytutor.com. Again, that's yourtechnologytutor.com. Well, that's it for this episode. Great to have you along today. Thanks for joining me. Again, the links presented in the program, along with a summary and additional notes and resources, can be found in the show notes for today's program. You'll find that at yourtechnologytutor.com. yourtechnologytutor.com/7. The next program, our topic, is cool things you can do right in the Google search besides search. Until then, your technology tutor, Chet Davis, signing off. Have a great rest of the day.